2024 NFL Draft Superlatives, best picks, worst picks. Who are the big winners and losers on draft day for the San Francisco 49ers and the rest of the NFL? And what about the last dance? Is this it for this group of San Francisco 49ers in 2024? All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Eric. Actually, it's at Crocky209. I almost did it. Crocky209 is the handle to find him. YouTube.com/Crocky209. Find his channel. Find OT with BP. It's my same handle. YouTube.com/@BD Peacock. You find me there. Wink, you start yourself up a new YouTube channel yet?
I need to get one. Wait, so at BD Peacock's taken. Okay, Crocky209 taken. Yeah. All right, I gotta get something good.
Bay Area Wink. Better take it before someone else does. And I just put it out there, so now someone's gonna go up there tomorrow, so they can charge you more for it later.
Yep. As soon as you said it, someone went online and got it.
More on who this Winkler gentleman is in one moment. I do want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Nicholas Winkler, our guest on this Winky Wednesday episode of Locked On 49ers. We're talking NFL draft, post-draft superlatives for this draft class now that we know who are the new San Francisco 49ers. Wink is a former radio colleague of mine. We used to report on traffic together. We used to have a 49ers podcast before I started doing Locked On 49ers every single day, and my golf partner at times as well. Crocky, soon to be one of our golf partners. He's getting into it. If you know someone in the Stockton area that can teach my guy Croc how to swing a golf club, he's an athlete, so it shouldn't take much. Let us know. And you can find us on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. All right, guys, let's talk 2024 NFL draft. First things first, Wink, we didn't get you on during our live stream to talk about the draft yet. So big picture, what are your thoughts, Wink, on the 2024 draft class for the San Francisco 49ers? And did you have a best pick to kick off our superlatives here?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited, right? I mean, you look at a guy like Pearsall, right, who's just electric, exciting hands, tough guy. Like, you're all, oh, okay. You start to envision what the offense can look like with a guy like that. And then my favorite picks in the fourth round is the fastest running back in this draft. You're talking about Isaac Guerendo. Like, that to me was like, oh, because that's what Shanahan does, right? He gets these fast running backs that are just one step in the ground, boom, go. You're talking about a 220-pound running back who runs a 4.4. Like, let's go. What can they do with this guy? That's
4.3.
really exciting. It's even better than I thought. Yeah. That's incredible.
6 feet, 221, 4.33 speed. It's he had the second highest relative athletic score since 1987 for a running back. Who's the number one, by the way? Has anybody said who the first is? Because I keep seeing this thing. He's the second best relative athletic score at the combine for a running back since 1987, but I haven't heard who the first one is. And I'm trying to think of who that might be. Someone who's big.
Bo Jackson.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
87? Was he? When was he? Might have been 86.
He was around Deion's years.
Yeah, he might have been 87.
And Deion didn't come out to 89. So
Bo Jackson, I don't know if he had official combine testing numbers, did he? Because like there's all those back in the day. I think 87 might be the reason that they used that, because things were a little bit more streamlined as far as official numbers. Because you always hear like, oh, Bo Jackson ran 4.12, and it's like, well, sure, I guess, yeah, 4.13 is what is what his unofficial 86 was Bo Jackson's combine. 6'1", 230, and apparently somebody's watch had a 4.13. So there you go, Bo Jackson.
I will say this. I've watched both guys. I watched a lot of Cody Schrader throughout the year, and I was so shocked when first of all, a couple things I was shocked by. Did not know he was a white guy. Maybe I just never saw him take his helmet off, but when he's running the ball, thought it was a light-skinned brother. Doesn't make any difference, but it's just, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Need more of those guys in the league. I like Chris McCaffrey. But I guess he didn't test well at all. But I think Kyle Shanahan did it again. I would not at all be surprised if by week 3 of the preseason, and we're watching these two running backs go, and you're watching Guerendo and you're watching Schrader, if people are like, why is the undrafted running back better than the mid-round draft pick? Because he runs good. Like, he runs strong. He has good vision, good with the cuts. He just doesn't have like elite breakaway speed. So if you're fine with a guy that will get you 15, but maybe won't take it 70, but you like that consistency, there's a chance that Schrader is a guy people look at on week 1 and say, well, why is the undrafted guy, why is he active and the draft pick is not? And we've seen that now with Kyle Shanahan's running backs or guys he took in the draft.
It's been it's not that we've seen it. We've seen it every single time. There's not been a time where the first running back drafted is better than the other guy.
Yeah, it's bound to change, right? I mean, you can go with that. It's either going to change or it's just going to keep going as we've always seen it. But when you look at this guy, you look at the film and, Guerendo, and you look at the numbers and you're like, how can this miss? Like, this guy's got it all. But I know with Kyle, a big part of it is your run blocking scheme, right? It's like, how can you protect the quarterback? Can you be part of the offense when you're not getting the ball? So as a rookie, that's probably tough, because we know the Kyle Shanahan offenses are tricky. So can he pick that up? I think that kind of goes into play. How much is he going to put in? How much time is he going to invest in this? Because, yeah, like you said, Croc, don't be surprised if that undrafted guy jumps in there, because he's consistently picking up his blocks. He's consistently doing exactly what the coaching staff is asking of them. That's how you make a football team as an undrafted free agent.
And I would say there's a lot of people out there that want to get these takes off on a guy that they like more. Like, oh man, keep an eye on this guy. Like, I really like this guy. This isn't even that. Like, you just watch him in the year. Schrader was the best running back in the SEC, like, or most productive back. Like, this isn't an out of nowhere guy or like this crazy long shot of him actually being better. Like, he was better. He was the better college back. He didn't test well. Matter of fact, he tested terribly. And I believe that's why he didn't get drafted. Only reason he slid. That's the only reason. He's not.
There's no off the field stuff. There's nothing like that we're missing.
Small and slow is death to your
5'10", 210, and not athletic on paper.
Yeah.
Is it a guy that could slot into fullback? I mean, is a guy that could help out in that area, because that's a way to make the team too, right?
He's not big. Like, and I don't even know if he can add. If you look at his frame, I don't think he can add 20 pounds to his frame.
No, he's pretty
maxed
filled out already. He's only 5'8", I'm pretty sure here. Let me pull up
5'8".
The official. I think he's listed at 5'10", but he's actually 5'8". Let me double check.
The real height.
We have I don't see it. Oh, Cody Schrader, 5'8.5", 202. He ran a 6'1". Really short arms, really, he's a really stubby looking guy. When you see him on the field, short legs, short arms, like that's just how he's built. And he didn't really even test that great with the agility drills either, which is what you would want to see from a smaller back. But he's got vision. He, he walk on, slept at the facility type of guy. Like that. That's who he is.
But he runs well. Like, that's the part. Yeah. I think throughout this time, there's a lot of people pushing back on the Pearsall, Adam Thielen comp. And I'm like, what do you guys talk? Like, it's identical. Like, I watched these guys. I mean, like, really watched them. Their game and what they do it's very similar. Like, it looks the same, but people want to go to the numbers. Oh no, Pearsall is much more explosive athlete, much better. It's like, yeah, you guys can look at these numbers. That's not what I see on film. And that's not to say that he's doesn't have speed. Like, I know that he has vertical speed. He has those things. But if you told me that he was, 42-inch vert, crazy broad jump, crazy 40, like, I would have been surprised, even though I think he's a good athlete. So again, when you look at some of these guys and even Schrader, to me, yeah, the other kid, Guerendo, is definitely a better athlete on paper. But when you watch the guys run, if I just sat all the 49er fans down and was like, all right, I'm going to show you just their first 5 carries in the game, you would be like, oh, I like this guy better. I'd be like, well, of course, because he was the 1,600-yard back in the SEC.
Yeah. And Guerendo sort of, both of them were older prospects that shared, or both of them were older prospects that transferred. Guerendo started out with Wisconsin, and even at Louisville, he didn't get his first start until bowl game when he was a senior in 2023. So one start in his entire career. He was sort of a backup, and he can actually, you mentioned the receiving ability and receiving down ability. Guerendo's got really good hands. He was actually a former wide receiver. And so he's got hands, and he's big enough that you would think he'd be pretty good in pass protection, but he was never, the main back there. And in fact, looking at Dane Brugler's beast and his rankings, he had Guerendo as a 4th round guy and the 12th running back overall. He had Cody Schrader as a 5th round running back, only 2 spots behind him, 14th overall.
Wow.
So yeah.
And those 2 spots, if I had to guess, were solely probably because of how they tested.
Right. Yeah. And look at, so never had a 1,000-yard season, Guerendo, in college at Wisconsin or at Missouri, or at Louisville. But Cody Schrader's stats in college were ridiculous. He went to Truman State. First of all, I don't even know what he was all GLVC, which is Gulf League Valley Conference. I don't know I don't even know where that is.
What school?
Truman State. D2.
So I played in the Gulf South Conference my junior year of college, but then my senior year, they switched us and they put a lot of us in this like league with some of the Oklahoma schools. So maybe that the Gulf South Conference that I played in, maybe that's what it is, because I played at Division II. So if he played it like with like North Alabama, like if you see him played against like North Alabama, those type of schools, I'd be like, yeah. Oh no, North Al they're now D1. My bad. But West Alabama, Valdosta State, if you see some of those schools on their schedule.
So at Truman State, 2021, Cody Schrader was first team All-American, D2. He was Offensive Player of the Year. He led the entire college football landscape in rushing, 300 carries for 2,074 yards and 25 touchdowns. Like, he's the exact opposite. Guerendo is, workout warrior, didn't have the stats. Cody Schrader had all the stats, not a workout warrior, and then had another really good season to end it after he transferred to Missouri for 2 years as the starter both years. He had 276 carries for 1,627 yards last year and 14 touchdowns at Missouri. So he showed he could do it and was, again, an All-American now in D1. So that's pretty cool. And just led the SEC in rushing. So, like, he could be better. In fact, he was a better college football player than Guerendo, just to put it flatly. Now, Guerendo has a lot of ability, and it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. But for sure, when a Kyle Shanahan team pulls out an undrafted free agent, I would not count out Cody Schrader. That's for sure.
Well, you just hope that it works out where one of them are good, right? Like with the Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy thing. Like, yeah, they were drafted pretty far apart, but you got your franchise quarterback, right? It's the same with Pearsall and Cowling. Like, you hope that one of those guys is like, okay, he is a legit wide receiver 1, 2, 3 in this league and will be productive for this team going forward. You hope you just hit, right, on at least one guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. More on this draft class, some of our favorite picks, our least favorite picks, and we got to talk about the last dance. Is this it for this group of San Francisco 49ers? Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This episode is also sponsored by Gametime. Gametime is the authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes all the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets or Major League Baseball tickets or your future NFL tickets when you're ready to go for some NFL games as well. Download that Gametime app. There's flash deals, so you can save even more with in-app purchases. You got zone deals. You choose the section. Gametime chooses the seats for even more value. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. I think we already talked about our favorite picks, right? What we thought the best pick was, Croc. Can you remind the folks out there what you thought the best pick was by the 49ers in the 2024 draft?
The best pick is probably Cowing.
Yeah, Cowing.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, it was your favorite.
Not because I think he's going to be the most impactful player or anything like that, but, just this clear, defined role. You had Ray McCloud. You lost Ray McCloud. You have a guy that can be electric. Can he be an explosive return guy in the kick return game, especially with the new kickoff return rules? You have a punt returner. Do you have a guy that can give you a catch here and there, or maybe take a handoff here and there? And that was what Ray McCloud did for the 49ers. If a guy went down, maybe you see him get a little bit more overall. Maybe they target him 2-3 times, right? But I feel like Cowing is a guy that can step in and do those kind of things. I think that role is very clear and defined for him. And he gives you the ability on top of that. Like, it's not just this, not a shot at Juwan Jennings. I know I talk a lot about him, but, not just this big guy that can run a quick out. Like, nah, man, give me that guy that can run that quick out and then get jiggy a little bit with it. I think Cowing can be that guy.
It's really close for me between the puny pick in the second round and Malik Mustafa, the fourth round safety. I think I'm going to go Mustafa, though, just to go with the later pick that I think could have a big impact. The 49ers, didn't have a lot of boomer bust type picks where you're like, man, this guy's going to be a crazy. He's got all this, but they drafted guys that are going to compete and that are going to have impactful careers, right? They're gonna compete, and they might have a fourth round starter, but a second round guy who plays nickel, or they might have drafted a slot receiver in the first round. They might have drafted a Hall of Famer in the first round at receiver, but they might also have a third round starting guard and a fourth round starting safety. So it's an interesting class by the 49ers, and it really does feel like that they had so many picks that could have all had very similar grades. And you look in different draft publications and different analysts I trust, and Pearsall's kind of a second round guy, but a top 5 safety and a top 5 guard on some boards that they also drafted. They got into the fourth round. So really interesting class, and it's kind of day 2 heavy prospects. And they might have gotten 3 or 4 prospects that probably had day 2 grades for a lot of teams' boards. So interesting class in that regard. Wink, is there a pick that maybe you're a little disappointed by? Not that you don't like any of these future 49ers, but that maybe you said, maybe would have gone a different direction, or maybe something that the 49ers didn't do. What was your least favorite part about the draft class?
Well, at first I was excited, obviously, about Pearsall. It's like, okay, I see it. I get it. I get what they're doing here. They got all this contract issues coming up with Ayuk and Debo and what they're going to go forward, right? And then I was like, okay, Renato Green, like, there we go. But I'm not so excited anymore about that pick, because I thought maybe that would be one of Croc's favorite picks, and then the fact that Croc's not supporting this guy, and you're saying he might be a nickel corner, like, do you think maybe they got it wrong with Green? Like, maybe it was too much of a stretch?
I wouldn't say that. For me, it's more so about just the fit and how they view him. If the 49ers are going to kind of scrap what they've done a lot of, which is play a lot of off zone. I don't want to say scrap it. Everybody's going to sprinkle in zone and play some zone in there.
Sure.
If they're not going to say, hey, man, we're going to really use this guy at this is his strength, and we want to really ride this part of his game, that's where I'm like, I don't know.
Okay.
Greg Cosell compared him to L'Jarius Sneed out of Louisiana Tech, and obviously
good.
Just won a Super Bowl, gave the 49ers receivers fits in the Super Bowl game. And he was a guy, he was a fourth round pick. Matter of fact, he went behind his teammate Roberson. So you can find guys, and if it fits, great. But what did the Chiefs do? Man, you know what? We don't really want to run zone because the quarterback might pick us apart. Man, let's just go man. And Snead is like, thank you. Like, that's my strength. And he did that, get the 49ers fits. If you're saying you're going to do that with Green, then I'm like, oh, I love it. Like, if the 49ers play more of a scheme like what we saw for a lot of years from the New England Patriots, where they run some zone stuff, but when it came down to it, we are manning up. We're going to lock up. We are not playing off. Remember, Kyle Shanahan had to call a timeout in the Super Bowl. Guys were off in short yardage situations. You didn't have those issues with New England because they knew what their identity was. We got this basketball roster kind of set up with receiver, with cornerbacks. We got tall guys, short guys, quick guys, strong guys, and we're going to match up with your guys. And if the 49ers say, you know what, Green is a guy we want to match him up on guys and play man press, I like it a lot more.
Yeah, that makes sense. With the Pooney pick too, I was like, okay, cool, here we go. Offensive tackle. This is an area of need. And it's like, wait, this guy's probably not going to play tackle, right? He's probably going to slot into guard there. So maybe that says a lot about how they feel, about their offensive line going forward, is that guard was actually a bigger need for them than tackle. But I really thought in this draft they were going to try to get that right tackle that could maybe then slide over to left tackle when Trent Williams retires. But we thought a lot of things going into this draft, so there's an area of disappointment when it comes to that. But these guys know a lot more than I do, so for me to sit here and be like, well, I'm not happy that they took a guard in the third round, it's like, this guy could be really good. Did he not give up a sack in college? It's incredible.
Okay, a few things here. First of all, L'Jarius Sneed, the rare safety, college safety turned NFL man shutdown corner, right? Like, I can't think of another guy who did that. It's always the opposite.
The other way around.
Corner, not quite athletic enough.
I think Ramsey did something along those lines.
Jalen Ramsey is more like the I'm going to play big. I'm going to play the star position because they'll just avoid me if I'm playing corner. So I'm going to be near the ball and be able to make more plays. But I think Snead was just a straight up free safety. And then he worked out super well. And they're like, well, you profile as a corner, so we're going to make you a corner. He ended up being a better pro corner than he was a college safety. It's kind of the Tarvarius Moore thing, right? The Niners tried that with Tarvarius Moore, and it didn't quite work out because he was like, oh, this guy's tall and fast.
They went solely on their prototype of cornerback. It's like, oh, we want these 6'1", 6'2", 200-pound long arm guys, and he ran extremely well. But when you cut the film on, it's like, nothing here says, oh, I need to move this guy to play cornerback. Like, there was nothing there that said that. That wouldn't have you draft him. If you play safety, oh, it doesn't quite work out. Okay, maybe it could work out a corner, even though typically don't see that. You try something different. But to just look at his movement skills and then put him, it's like, huh? Why would you do that? That was always questionable to me. Nothing on this film. Matter of fact, he didn't even have film like a single high guy. You saw some quarters, but I mean, we were there together when we were watching that draft, Peacock, and when he got drafted. And we were
was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a shocker pick. That was one we didn't expect. Actually, that was a big shocker draft in 2018. That was 2018, right? So that was the McGlinchey first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Pettis trade up, and then they get a superstar linebacker in the third, and they come back with that late third with the workout warrior safety that they're going to convert to corner. So just such a strange class, and it's a good reminder that the first pick in the draft is not better than the second and better than the third, and all the way down to 257. That's not the way it works, right? So it's buckle up, because it's always going to be fun to watch the development of all these prospects. You said something, Wink, that's interesting that I want to talk more about, the sacks given up and the sacks collected by linemen at the college level and what it matters for the NFL. We got to talk about the last dance. Is this it for this group of San Francisco 49ers in 2024? Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is sponsored by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk a little bit more about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. We've already talked a lot about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together. You build up each other's boards, and the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. But you can also just completely destroy your friends as well, which, depending on who you are, might be a little bit more fun. Steal from their vaults. You can knock down their properties. You can charge them outrageous rents on your iconic Monopoly properties. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, massive multipliers, everything to help you win and rent frenzies and so many different ways with unique mini games to build up your Monopoly leaderboard and show everybody how good you are at the game, including your friends. So there's always something new and fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it free on Google Play and the App Store. With Monopoly Go, it is game on. So you brought up something, and I'm watching Dominic Pooney, and he's a really good prospect, and he's one of my favorite picks, as I mentioned, in the draft. And it's like, man, this guy hasn't given up a sack in 2 years. And it's like, dude never blocks for a quarterback who's dropping back to pass. It's like this college, like watching the college tape is so frustrating sometimes, man. It's all RPOs, getting the ball out super fast. You're watching Chop Robinson instantly beat the offensive tackle around the corner, just flying around the corner, like the quickest sack win you could possibly get. And it's like, why did Chop Robinson only have 4 sacks? He must not be a very good pass rusher. It's like, no, they throw the football in 1.5 seconds in college football. It's like, snap, get rid of the ball. That's it, RPO. Like, you can't beat a guy faster. And so you see this a lot with a lot of these offensive linemen. Man, 1 sack in 2 years, 0 sacks in 2 years. Like, you gotta do a little bit more trait scouting, which Dominic Pooney measures up really well in. But some of these stats, it's like, man, the college game is just so much different. And I think that's what makes it a little bit more difficult with the linemen, especially because there's not as much to go on production-wise. You just have to really trust what you're seeing. Does this guy play nasty? Does he have the traits we're looking for to be able to do what we need him to do? And you look at the measurables and you figure out who's good and who's not. And I think Dominic Pooney is going to be a really nice fit for the 49ers. Question is, where does he play? When does he play? Does he play guard right away? Is he more of a swing, like super sub Daniel Brunskill early in his career? We can play a lot of different spots. Do they view him as a future center? Or, because you could replace, you could potentially, like, I think we know, and John Lynch already said he's going to play guard. So he's not going to be a left tackle or right tackle. So biggest winner in the entire draft is Colton McKivitz for the 49ers, because they didn't draft. There's no competition for him at all.
Some people are still holding out hope that Pooney can play tackle. You think that's completely off the table?
I mean, I'm sure
McKivitz is a guy that played some inside as well. What wasn't a thing, but you think it's like, nah, this guy is solely a guard. Yeah,
the valuation on Pooney is that basically he's an interior offensive lineman. And
arms, right? His arms aren't long enough.
Arm length isn't quite there. His athleticism is interesting because he's really good in the short area, but he's not. You remember when Joe Staley's like out on the run in front of Alex Smith on that naked bootleg against the Saints, right? And he's just way out in front of the run. Like, Pooney's not going to do that, but what Pooney can do is get out of his stance, reach a block that he needs to, and get out to that second level and get to a linebacker. But he's not like super athletic. He's not super athletic in pass protection. So he's just, everything screams interior offensive lineman to me with Pooney. And John Lynch already said they're going to start him out inside. Now, maybe he can end up being a tackle. And look, I don't know who you would have drafted at tackle anyway from 31 on that was just going to come in and take the job from Colton McKivitz. And I know some people that hate Colton McKivitz might say that that's kind of crazy, but it's difficult for rookies to just jump in and you're the starting offensive tackle. It's difficult for a lot of guys. I think there might have been some opportunities to get those players, but the 49ers went a different direction. But I think, Pooney's an inside guy for sure.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
I've still been doing some thinking on Green.
Okay.
And a guy came to mind with short arms, was primarily a press guy in college, outside guy. I actually liked him outside corner, but had to transition to being more of a nickel at the next level. Didn't quite have the arm length, but was slightly built a lot like him. Roger McCreary out of Auburn a couple years ago.
Yeah, you liked him too, right?
I did like him, and I think he transitioned into more of a nickel. So when we hear John Lynch say that Green may be more of a nickel, maybe if you guys want to know what that might look like, check out Roger McCreary playing for the Tennessee Titans now. I'm going to go and look and to see what that transition has been like, because he was a guy that was a press man corner at Auburn and has had to transition at the NFL level.
Yeah, and let's not downgrade the nickel position. It's important, right? I mean, you're in the NFL right now where they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, especially in the NFC West. You play the Rams twice a year. Like, they're going to have a lot of wide receivers out there. So I'm looking forward to see what he does.
I think it's the hardest position. Like, this is for
which way you gotta go?
Physically, a lot of people say, oh man, you got two positions that's really difficult, quarterback and corner. But I think for corners, it's more specifically the nickel because you're playing in way more space. Even when you're in man coverage, guys run these slot fades. They have all this space to fade to. You have to guard guys that have a two-way go, and you don't have the sideline to help you. You have to run fit. You have to be on the same page with the linebackers, D-line, the safeties, and the corners. I mean, it's a lot that they put on those guys playing in the nickel.
You did it, Croc. You talked me back into green. I'm back on board.
Hey, the number one rule of the draft is to draft good players. And the 49ers, I think, drafted a lot of good players. And we'll see how they all fit, even if they're more inside than outside guys at their respective positions. Wink, what do you think about the idea that this could be it? That there's huge changes to come after this year. Maybe no Debo, maybe no Trent Williams. We know how running backs can go. And Christian McCaffrey's at the age where you start to fall off of a cliff, and he's got 2 more years left on his deal. George Kittle. Could this be that much of a last dance that this is it? 2024, new entire organizational philosophy going forward after this season, starting in 2025.
I don't buy it. I see it. I get what they're saying. Okay, I hear it. Okay, yeah, maybe that might happen. But I think this organization's making plans going forward. I think they know what they got to do here in the next 2-3 years. And I don't think they have just this 1 year of let's go for it. Let's put all our chips in the middle of the table. They're planning things out. They're going to work this out. I'm not concerned. I think it is time to go win a championship. Yes, do it now before Trent Williams retires. To me, that's the scariest thing. Is replacing the left tackle, who's probably the best in the NFL right now when he goes. So you might only have 1 more year of that kind of stability and that kind of cornerstone on your offensive line. So go get it done.
Croc, can it be a last dance when your quarterback's 25 years old?
I don't think so, man. I think Purdy's just getting started, but and Purdy, he is the starter. There is no quarterback controversy. Kruger's been kind of raving about this undrafted quarterback the 49ers got out of Wisconsin. He went to TCU as well, broke some records, I think, threw 9 touchdowns in 1 game. He also played at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley. But interesting prospect, 6'2", 220 pounds, ran a 4.46. And most importantly, he got a nice little swag to him. Not so much at Nebraska, but when I saw him at the other schools, or not even Oklahoma, but TCU specifically. But anyways, I'm like, this interesting guy. And why does Krug continue to rave about this guy? And he talked about how not taking Purdy's spot at all, but man, you see Dobbs and Allen, maybe they end up on their way out because this rookie quarterback does so well, and they kind of have to keep him on some Brock Purdy type situation. So, just an interesting guy to kind of keep an eye on that we haven't talked about. We haven't even watched him. I'm just going off of what Kruger's been raving about, but that'd be a good guy once we get into more of these film breakdowns on these prospects, just to kind of see what we're seeing with them.
Tanner Mordecai out of Wisconsin was his last stop. 6'1" and 5/8, 210 pounds, ran a 4.53, 36.5-inch vertical, which is solid for quarterbacks. I think the second highest on the list here for the quarterbacks. 7 second in the 3-cone, 4.23 in the short shuttle. Dude's an athlete. But I will say, and this is why I went to Larry Kruger on the Overtime with Brian Peacock YouTube channel to talk about day 3 prospects and some potential undrafted free agents. There's nothing more in the world than undrafted free agents that Larry Kruger loves. He loves it. He raves about all of them. So it's almost like a Baldy breakdown when it comes to undrafted free agents. He makes them all seem like first-round picks.
Everybody's great to Baldy.
Yeah, exactly.
Look how he
that's how Larry Kruger is for the 6th, 7th round guys, the undrafted free agent guys. And he loves those dudes. And so, go to Larry Kruger if you want to get pumped up about an undrafted
former scout. He spent a lot of time evaluating those kind of prospects.
Absolutely. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Winky Wednesday, Locked On 49ers. Wink, always a pleasure having you here with us as we do every single week. Appreciate all the listeners and everydayers out there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Croc and I back tomorrow to break down a couple of 49ers rookie defensive backs in Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa. Talk to you then right here. Locked On 49ers.
See you.